Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and this time we'll be looking at new Swedish cinema, and to be exact from the 1960s, and at 4 films from the director Bo Widerberg. Everyone will of course know of Ingmar Bergman. Clearly he's the most prolific of Sweden's filmmakers, and there's an extensive oeuvre of his films in the collection. But many may not know or indeed have heard of Bo Widerberg. Widerberg was born in Malmöhus County in Sweden and was responsible for a series of films mainly in the 1960s, and he worked as a director up to 1995. Now, Criterion had brought together 4 of his 60s works in a set entitled New Swedish Cinema. That's The Baby Carriage from 1963, Raven's End from 1963, Elvira Madigan 1967, and Adalen 31 1969. With influences from the French New Wave, Bo Widerberg heralded a change in Swedish film in the 1960s. Now, he grew up in simple circumstances. His father, Arvid, had a late breakthrough as a naive painter, and when his son was growing up, he worked as a driver. His mother, Greta, worked in a clothing factory, and Widerberg matriculated from school yet didn't enter higher education. Instead, he chose to pursue his own studies with a prodigious appetite for literature, music, art and film. In 1952 he made his debut as a writer, and in 1962 he published Visionen I svensk film, a vision of Swedish cinema, in which he accused Swedish film of being insular and mummified. Now, the same year he directed The Baby Carriage, about a young woman who gets pregnant and resolutely takes her life into her own hands. On the premiere of The Baby Carriage in 1963, critics were quick to note that something new was happening, and the film marked the start of a long, intensive and sometimes explosive collaboration with the actor Tommy Berggren. Infused with a jazzy nouvelle vague inspired energy, the director Bo Widerberg's feature had the freshness of youth, and building on his film criticism's call for a socially relevant Swedish cinema, the writer turned director offered a vivid portrait of a young factory worker, Inger Taube, finding her way towards independence as she weathers unexpected pregnancy, learns hard lessons from relationships with 2 very different men, and leaves behind the only home she has ever known. Abetted by the fellow filmmaker Jan Troell, the coolly beautiful monochrome cinematography takes a bold first step in the mission to create a cinema that is both engaged and engaging. Now, that summer found Widerberg shooting the film that would come to be regarded as his masterpiece, and that is Raven's End. It's a 1963 Swedish drama film, and it's about an aspiring working-class writer in Malmö. The story bears some similarities to Widerberg's own background, although he claims it's entirely fictional. In this period film set in the mid-1930s, Anders is dreaming about becoming a writer. His friend Sexton is dreaming about becoming a football player so he can go to Paris and meet prostitutes and fur. Anders' ambitions are supported by his girlfriend Elsie and his parents, and his mother supports the family by doing laundry, while his father is unemployed and has a problem with alcohol and gambling. Now, the film was shot on location in a rundown Malmö block that was soon to be demolished. Locals were used as extras to strengthen the feeling of authenticity. Widerberg's view was that Swedish film was just too deferential, and that it placed a technically perfect appearance ahead of vitality in acting and cinematography. He urged cameramen to refrain from what was conventionally beautiful and correct. And part of Widerberg's method was to shoot a good deal of footage in an effort to get the actors to feel less intimidated by the camera and to seek inspiration from existing environments. He then sifted through the material in lengthy editing sessions. Bo Widerberg was an innovator. His first film made in colour was Elvira Madigan, and it was shot by Jörgen Persson, also exclusively in natural light, something most people at the time considered to be impossible. Elvira Madigan is from 1967, and it's a Swedish film directed by Widerberg, based on the tragedy of the Danish slack rope dancer Hedvig Jensen, born 1867, working under the stage name of Elvira Madigan at her stepfather's travelling circus. She runs away with a Swedish nobleman, Lieutenant Sexton Spara, born in 1854. Elvira Madigan and Sexton Spara are together in the Danish countryside, having run away together and abandoned their past lives. Spara has renounced the military and now claims to be on the women's side. Elvira, who was the main attraction at her circus, has got her identity back and starts to refer to herself with her real name, Hedvig. With a relatively small cast, the film featured Pia Degermark as Hedvig Jensen, Elvira Madigan, Tommy Berggren as Lieutenant Sixten Spara, Lennart Malmer as Christopher, Cleo Jensen as Cleo, Yvonne Ingdahl as Elvira Madigan's voice. Now, Pia Degermark won the Best Actress Award at Cannes for her portrayal of Elvira Madigan. The film was a great success because of this and brought the director international acclaim. Now, his next feature was Adalen 31, released in the United States as Adalen Riots. It's a 1969 Swedish drama film which depicts the 1931 Adalen shootings, in which Swedish military forces opened fire against labour demonstrators in the Swedish sawmill district of Adalen, killing 5 people, including a young girl. In 1931, the working class family Andersson of Adalen are taking part in a massive sympathy strike for workers in the town Marma. Harald, the father of the family, catches fish and manages to support his family while maintaining a good mood. Jell, the oldest son, works at the office and is the sawmill manager, and he is taught about classical music, impressionism and French pronunciation by the manager's wife. He also plays in a jazz band with his friend Nissa, with whom he also discusses things like girls, erogenous zones and hypnosis. As spring commences, the manager's daughter Anna comes home for a school holiday, and she and Jell fall in love and she becomes pregnant with his child. Now, this film was X-rated in the United States and it won the Grand Prix du Jury at the Cannes Film Festival and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film also. And it won the Special Jury Prize at Cannes. And by the late 1960s, Widerberg was widely regarded as one of the great European directors. Now, Criterion celebrates this and his earlier work in Bo Widerberg's new Swedish cinema. It's a Blu-ray presentation and it comes with the following special features. New restorations of all 4 of the films with uncompressed mono soundtrack. New introduction to the director Bo Widerberg by the filmmaker Ruben Östlund. New interviews with the actor Tommy Berggren and the cinematographer Jürgen Persson. The Boy and the Kite, 1962, a short film directed by Widerberg and Jan Troell, with introduction by Troell. Swedish television interviews with Widerberg from the 1960s, and behind-the-scenes footage from the making of Elvira Madigan. And an essay by the film historian Peter Cowie, and excerpts from Widerberg's 1962 book, Vision in Swedish Film. And the cover art, as usual, we see it often his name, Eric Skellman. He also worked with his own son, Johan. He played Detective Kohlberg's son in The Man on the Roof from 1976, his acclaimed crime feature, inspired by the French Connection, which incidentally has recently received a recent release on Blu-ray through the excellent Radiance film. Now, his insistence that everything should be born at the moment had made planning his film shoots difficult, and acting was a key for Widerberg. Almost everything else he regarded as inferior, and this made working with other colleagues a bit tricky. His habit of abandoning and then resurrecting films, such as the US production Joe Hill, not delivering on time, for instance, caused Widerberg to be regarded as impossible to work with. But despite the fact that The Man on the Roof was a milestone in Swedish crime cinema, producers from the mid-1970s onwards were reluctant to work with him. And to that end, Widerberg only completed 3 films in the 1980s, from then until his return to film with All Things Fair in 1995. He was also involved in theatre and television production. Made with a Danish producer, his last film followed on from Raven's End and Adalen Riots, as it was known in the US, and helped him to secure a 3rd Oscar nomination, and he passed away from stomach cancer in 1998. And as you can see, the films and the running times are already on the screen. Bo Widerberg's new Swedish cinema comes to the Criterion Collection in the US only on Tuesday the 22nd of August, and it's Spine 1189. And that film brings this edition of Let's Talk Criterion to a close. Our final August release will be Dry Longzo from director Colleen Smith. So until then, from me, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.